My next guest has been fighting for conservative values his whole career. He's an Iraq war veteran, an attorney, Air Force chaplain, and previously served as the ranking member on the House Judiciary Committee while representing the state of Georgia in Congress. You've seen him many times on television. You've seen him on this show. We have him here because we like him. Would you please welcome the host of the Doug Collins podcast, former Congressman Doug Collins. Well, Congressman, I think it's fair to say we've had a pretty big day in this country with the verdict coming down this week. And I don't know about you, but there was a part of me that was disappointed, not as much shocked. I think I kind of half expected it, even though the trial was a joke. But the other part of me was deeply sad.
Yes.
What was your reaction?
I was just sitting here, we were getting ready to come to the show today and, talk about a lot of other things. And I was sitting there and you, from your pastor background, my pastor background, you knew somebody, it's almost like this feeling you knew something was going to happen. You knew somebody was maybe dying, so to speak. And it still, when it happened, there was just that cold chill.
Yeah.
But yet this is different because this is about my country. This is about a cold chill that developed in a courtroom in which I, as an attorney, believe that is what makes us different than the rest of the world. The rule of law, going before a judge. If they're going to be able to take your freedoms, they got to prove their case. That it's not just about Donald Trump, it's about everybody.
Well, that's what I hope people understand. I had reactions from people that I hadn't heard from in a long time. And within minutes of this happening, they were saying, I'm not a political person, never a big fan of Trump, but I just sent him money. I'm going to do everything I can. One guy said, I'll crawl across broken glass between now and November to try to get him elected. And I'm thinking, these are people that are not hypercharged politicos like guys like you and me, but they see the unfairness. They see that something is wrong when the way they are trying to beat Donald Trump is not at the ballot box, it's at the jury box.
Yeah, and I want to think clear, because when right after this happened, the Biden tweeted out that we're going to beat him on November 5th. And I want to warn everybody, don't let them do this. Yeah. Don't let them try to get by this trial. They wanted the guilty tag on him so that they could run it, but then they just want you to sort of overlook it and just run straight to it, not to say, how did we get here? This is just wrong. And I say, look, if I was the Democrats, I'd be worried too. When you've got a guy who actually has trouble finding his way on and off the stage, when he shakes hands with nobody, when he starts to discuss things, and all of a sudden he runs off into, I hate to say this, Kamala Harris, the vice president, actually makes can actually make sense compared to Joe Biden speaking sometimes.
That's a pretty bold statement.
I struggle with that, but it's true. But if that's what I had to deal with, I would try any other way, because right now they know the American people aren't buying what they're selling because they see it in their gas pump, they see it in their grocery bill, they see it in the illegals pouring across this border with impunity, doing whatever they want to do. So this is the way they try to do it. And here's what bothers me. You've ran for office, I have as well. In elections, you say what you're going to do. Yeah. Well, Alvin Bragg said exactly what he was going to do. I'm going to get Donald Trump. Letitia James, I'm going to get Donald Trump. Since when do prosecutors run on getting a certain individual and finding a crime? It's about prosecuting safety and keeping us safe, and they fail miserably.
I think you just made the most important point of all. The whole process of our criminal justice system is to go after a crime, not a person.
Yes.
What they have done is to borrow that line from the old Stalinist who worked for Joseph Stalin, who said, you show me the man, I'll find the crime. Yep. And that's really what we've seen, is that this wasn't about that they found some raging thing Donald Trump did. They never articulated what his crime was throughout the entire 7 weeks of a trial. I've never seen anything quite like this.
No, I told somebody the other day on one of the interviews, I said, I want to go back and be a prosecutor. If all you have to do is accuse somebody and then you don't have to prove anything, I'll go do that all day long.
Just go get a judge that'll agree with you.
Exactly. Just find a judge that says, yep, I agree. But you've hit on it perfectly here, because the problem that has now become obvious in two court cases. One in which the fraud that was committed was a bank which they never allow for their people to come testify. Came testified and said, yep, we gave him money. He paid us back. We made money, and we'd like to have him again. Yeah. Excuse me?
And that's
where's the fraud? I think that's called good business. Yeah. But, we don't have it. That was in that case. And now in this case, no crime named. You can pick one of four. Now think about that for a second. Yeah. If you're to be convicted on misdemeanors that had already went out of statute of limitations to start with, but the judge basically said, well, if you four pick that one and you four pick that one and you four pick that one, then that's unanimous. I mean, that ain't even new math anymore. We've just went into taking our shoes off and just pretending we're counting at this point.
We were talking about this trial, but there's one coming up in Georgia, if it ever gets there, because, boy, that's been a controversy. Fannie Willis, the prosecutor, kind of caught red-handed, funneling $700,000 to her boyfriend, who was married at the time, so he could be her special prosecutor. I mean, this is, it's outrageous, but here's what I don't understand. Explain to us, how did she win her primary for re-election in Georgia?
Well, as most say, it was a given in that sense. Her primary, she was going to win. The Fulton County area which she represents is a fairly Democratic area. North Fulton's a little more Republican. And by the way, we do have a Republican who is challenging her in the fall.
Who's been on our show.
Courtney Kramer, good. Yeah. And so we need to get behind that and support. Because it's not just the trial. There's now been coming up evidence from the U.S. Senate who said that she had gotten money that she misspent, so there's been misappropriation of funds. There's all kinds of things that are surrounding this. The problem is, I hate to say this, when she first got elected, we actually thought that maybe this was an improvement because the one before her was a disaster. Well, she said, just hang on a second, hold my Diet Coke, I'll make sure you don't remember him anymore. She went right past that one. But again, it goes back to another prosecutor who basically decided, I'm going to go after this and make a name, I guess, for yourself. But the arrogance of what she's done down there is the appalling part. Is, doing this. And remember, most people forget this. You know how this started, the downfall of these motions that actually led this? Was because she got involved in his divorce trial in Cobb County. The DA used her own power to say, you can't subpoena me, you can't do this, and put it herself. Arrogance always leads to a fall.
Well, that's kind of what the scripture does teach us, doesn't it? One more time, it's proven to be true. Do you get as frustrated as I do, though? I agree with you very much, audience. But do you get frustrated? I do, with sometimes our own Republicans. They've got the majority, but they don't act like they're in the majority. They act like they're whipped dogs and banished out to the backyard.
I bring up some points that shock a lot of people a lot of times. One to realize is this majority, that everybody talked about how small the majority was for Republicans. Well, we just can't get anything done. Well, hogwash. Nancy Pelosi had the exact same majority, and yet she pushed an infrastructure bill, a climate change bill, COVID relief package. She did it all. Because they stuck together, because they looked at policy as the end result. They look at changing America. I shared with you before we came on. Most people don't realize that in the last 32 years, Republicans have been in control on all but 8 years in the House of Representatives.
And I did not realize that.
8 years. Nancy Pelosi was Speaker for 8 years, both times. Both times she was told she would lose her speakership. But during that time, she was willing to give up position and power for policy. First time, she got Obamacare, Dodd-Frank, everything else. She just messed up our healthcare system, banking system, everything else. But she got what she wanted. She changed America, and it's still there. She waited 8 years. She became Speaker again. She tried to take down Donald Trump, and then she supported Joe Biden's very liberal agenda. We as Republicans and conservatives have got to realize that 218 votes is what you have in the House. Anything less than 218 is a YouTube video or a fundraising mechanism. And I would rather see my country change for the better than somebody posturing because they're not willing to compromise. We cannot divorce politics and reality, and we've done that in this country. Both sides have done it, and we got to get back to reality.
We need to send you back, Doug. Simple as that. Hey, thanks for being here. It's great to have you. Always is. I know you'd like to keep up with Doug Collins on his social media platforms. It's not hard. If you go to Huckabee.tv and click on his guest page, we'll get you all connected.